Hi, this is little Bobby. This is going to be my first ever podcast. I've never done a podcast before, but I've seen a lot of podcasts on a computer, and most of them seem pretty retarded. So I thought I'd do one of my own. So since my first podcast, I guess I'll talk about masturbation in prison. I don't know why. I got a phone call the other day from a friend of mine. Maybe that's why. So my friend is doing life in prison. Let's call him Ivan. It's not really his name. I'm not going to tell you his name. Anyways, Ivan's off there in prison. I don't know. I guess he's been there about 15 years, maybe more. And as you can tell by his name, which isn't his real name, he's he's Eastern European, so he's a pretty funny guy. And I remember when he came here, he came to Canada, he couldn't get a job, and so he fell in with the wrong crowd, as they say. And good old Ivan, he was out there, he was doing a lot of collections and just being a gangster and shit, but a very funny gangster. I mean, he used to wear those American flag tracksuits. Like unironically, like he thought that was like a really cool look, and he had the gold chains, the whole fucking deal. So anyways, Ivan calls me up from prison. He doesn't call that often, calls me once in a while, but he's over there in prison. I think they're going to let him out soon. Obviously he's there on a murder thing, and they're going to probably just deport him out of the country as soon as he gets out, which is, too bad for him, but that's the way it goes. You can't really come to another country and kill people and expect to just, I don't know, do your time and get out and be okay. Anyways, his story is that Ivan calls me, and it's a very strange story. He's telling me, now, what you got to understand is that there's not much to do in prison, really, right? I haven't been in prison a lot. I've been a couple of times, little things, but Ivan's over there in prison, and there's not much to do. All you can do is masturbate mostly. I remember when I was there, there was only one porno mag, and I remember there was this very fantastic looking Asian girl. I assume she was some kind of like half Korean, half Japanese, but like curly hair. And I still remember her, because we were good friends for the couple of months that I was in jail there. She was always hanging out by the bathroom, just waiting for me. It's probably one of the more rewarding relationships of my life. Anyways, good old Ivan, he calls me from prison, and he tells me that, having 15 years to masturbate, he's turned it into a kind of an art form. And he's been experimenting with this tantric. I guess it's tantric. I don't know if he used the word tantric, but he's telling me about the tantric thing. And basically, that's you masturbate, and you bring yourself, I guess, right to the point of orgasm, but you don't actually let the ejaculate come out, because that drains your strength. It takes away your manhood, your vitality. I could talk to you about that. I don't want to sound too intellectual or anything, but in fact, this is a theory that goes way back. It goes all the way back through Gandhi, and you can go all the way back to medieval times, Dante, and even his predecessors. There's a whole theory about radical moisture. And so the idea is each one of us is born with a certain amount of radical moisture, which is just the moisture you have. And what happens is, if you have a lot of it, you have a lot of life force, and then you pass that on to your children when you ejaculate in a woman, and so that child hopefully gets a lot of radical moisture, and then as you lose your radical moisture, you lose your life force and you die. And that's why old people look all dried out and wrinkly like me. And so as you get older, you're losing your radical moisture. So I guess they kind of, this idea is a very old idea, and this idea of not ejaculating, but apparently the orgasm is much better too. And there's not much to do there. I have another funny story about masturbating in prison. And so my father, not really my father, but my stepfather, but I call him my father. It wasn't actually my stepfather either. He's just my mother's boyfriend. But So he shot a guy in the stomach when he was 19. He was robbing a jewelry store. I don't know exactly what went wrong, or maybe he just liked shooting people. I don't know, but we didn't really talk about it a lot. But anyways, he shot a guy in the stomach during a jewelry store robbery, and that's one of the most painful places to get shot, apparently. And the guy didn't die. But my stepfather, he went to jail for 15 years when he was 19 years old. So you can imagine, 19 years old, you're at your sexual peak. So clearly there's a lot of masturbation going on. Now, so, he's in prison. And in those days, this was like the 50s. So in the 50s, and it still exists on the books in Canada anyways, if you go through the rule book, you'll see that there are rules against masturbation that are still on the rule book. I remember this because when I was in jail for a while, we found the fucking stupid rule in the book, and then we would go up to the guards and confess, and say, hey, listen, I gotta confess, look, it's against the rules. I was masturbating last night. I feel really bad. I think you have to punish me. The guards, get the fuck out of here. But it was kind of still a thing back then in the 50s. And so, my stepfather, he's in his cell and he's standing over the sink and doing his thing. And a guard comes by and he bangs a club on the bars and he says, hey, what the hell are you doing in there? And, my stepfather just looks at him and he says, hey, the soap's mine. The water's free. I'll wash it as fast as I want. Anyways, that's one of my favorite stories about my stepfather. So my buddy Ivan, his name is Ivan, good guy, bit of a murderer. His wife actually was a murderer, was a murder victim. Literally, like, I could throw a baseball to where they found her body. They found her body. She was in her car. She was driving out of a tunnel, and somebody shot into her car. Car went up on the sidewalk, and that's where they found her, like in the car with she was shot. And his wife was like one of the hottest strippers in Montreal. And if you know Montreal, you know that we are like the stripper capital of the world. I don't care what anyone says. Excellent strippers. And so she was in she was in the car. She was wearing like a very light summer dress, I think someone told me. And I knew a guy who was a police reporter at the time. And, I don't got anything against the cops, but they're a bit fucking gross. So what happened was the cops apparently, because she had magnificent breasts. I mean, breasts that they were real, first of all, but they were just like, it's like God said, today I'm going to make the perfect breasts. And so they were pretty magnificent, just big but perfect. And so the cops apparently, she's dead, and the cops were like lifting open her dress to check out her boobs, because they were like, wow, those are pretty impressive. So it's a bit of a gross thing. Anyways, that was Ivan's wife, and she got killed, and I don't know who did it. I think for a while, Ivan was on the OJ tip. He was out hunting for the real killers, and there's a funny story there. So she was coming home from she had some kind of a fling, one night stand, whatever, with a guy who was a doorman downtown, pretty popular doorman, good looking guy. He used to wear this big leather trench coat, and girls want to get in the club, so he would get a lot of pussy. And he was a suspect for a while, and one of the reasons they thought that he might have killed Ivan's wife was because she had slept with him, and she had told everybody he was really bad in bed. And so people were like, yeah, he must have been really freaked out that she told everybody he was bad in bed. But then when we went and talked to the guy, he said, I don't give a shit. Yeah, I am bad in bed. Everybody knows I'm bad in bed. I don't care. Why should I be good in bed? I can sleep with any one of 300 girls here every night. Why should I put any effort into it? So then we were like, well, I guess he didn't do it. So that's a story that happened just around the corner here. Anyways, so old Ivan there calling me up from jail and doing the tantric masturbation, and it seems that something happened. He broke his cock somehow. I don't know what he did to it, but something went wrong. And I guess his penis swelled up, and or maybe it just really started to hurt. I don't know. I was not really listening to the story he was telling me. You can understand a little bit not interesting. Anyways, so he goes to the infirmary, and he goes up to the infirmary, shows them, hey, I'm having some serious problems with my junk here. And the doctor does a full examination. And in part of that examination, he finds a small tumor on Ivan's bladder. And it turns out that, Ivan had the beginnings of some cancer on his bladder, small tumor. And he never would have known, because maybe you're not aware, but you don't get regularly scheduled checkups. Fuck, here in Quebec, you can't get a doctor. I'm lucky, I have a doctor, but if you haven't lived here all your life, forget about it. You're not getting a doctor. So you can imagine in prison, it's even worse. Actually, it might be a little better. I don't know, they probably have doctors in the prison. So, but the point is, they were never going to find this tumor probably until it was the size of a grapefruit or something. But because he was jerking off in prison and doing all these radical, strange ways of jerking off, he discovered this tumor on his bladder. And now they have to do something. They have to intervene. They have to remove it. And that's why he was calling me. He was asking me if I could, because they have no internet in there. So he was asking me to look at on the internet and find if there were alternative treatments and so on. But I just thought I'd tell you that story today, because that's a story about masturbation that, like most stories about masturbation, has a happy ending. There you go. All that for that dumb joke. So, I'm Little Bobby, not my real name either, and this is Little Bobby's Story Time, edition 1. So thank you for listening, if anybody ever sees this.